Hey everyone, thanks so much for taking some time with me today, wherever you are and whenever you are, to see this and to share this. Please feel free to do both. This is a time for you to ask questions, whether they're silly or whether they're serious, as we spend some time together. As I always say, this time is for you to ask those questions and to have some discussion. It's not about me to have anything laid out. I don't do that, so this is for you, and so feel free to ask those questions and uplift that time. We are here gathered together, and this is after Easter, where we celebrate the resurrection of Christ, where we celebrate that Jesus was raised from the dead after being in the tomb for 3 days and offering new life and a promise to all people. And I think that's so important for us this year, especially as I shared this past Sunday, that it offers hope, it offers promise, it offers a way to engage us and to be uplifted by it for our future and for the world around us, for our nation. And I think it's also a time to see the impact of this event, of the crucifixion, the death, the resurrection of Jesus, and how it deeply impacts our world even 2,000 years later. Um, it is an event that is for the world, for all people, and I think that is vital for us to remember. It is an opportunity for us to see that even in the midst of all of the things that were going wrong in the world, or the issues that were happening back then, Jesus still came. Jesus still died for not just those who believed in him, but for everyone, so that there might be a closer and a newer relationship with God in a new way. And I think that's important for us to hold on to. That it's not just about fitting into a mold for faith. You know, the more I read about all of this stuff, and the more work that I'm doing in my personal studies and my school studies for this, just to hear the amazing impact that God has for everyone, for the world, and that's what it is. It's this notion of this is done for the world, for people to be engaged by it and to hear all of it and to experience it in a new way and with who they are. So I think that's so important for us to hear and to recognize in our world today, and to experience what that means for all people, for us who believe, for those who struggle to believe, for those who don't believe, for those who have differing beliefs, and how then are we able to work together in the midst of those differences? How are we able to find some common ground, some focus? How are we able to reform our understanding, to experience what that means for us in our local community, in our congregation, if you're part of a church group, and just a regular community, or the nation. And I think one of the things that I feel that this has taught us this last year is that community is defined in so many unique ways, that it's not just about physical proximity anymore, but community is about people gathering together for a specific purpose, whether it's they like, whether it's they like the same thing, or they ask silly questions, or they engage in a focused purpose. I'm laughing because I just saw a comment pop up in the question from a colleague of mine. Brian, is a hot dog a sandwich? That is a great question, but I think it would depend, Brian, on what is it on. Is it on a roll? Is it on bread? And how then do we define also what is on top of it? So what is a sandwich? Is it just a hot dog in a bun? Then I would say probably not. If it is more with, sauerkraut and all the fixings, or, there used to be a place in Gettysburg where I went to seminary called the Dog House, and they had, different types of hot dogs all over all over, and all sorts of stuff on it. Those I would say are sandwiches. Um, and even, to go to the other extreme, when I was in high school, when I was a teenager, I went to Sweden for a month, and they made these hot dogs. That's the what I can figure, hot dog sausage kind of thing. But because the flavor profile wasn't there enough, and the calories and all of the salt and everything weren't. So they slice it open and they put cheese in the middle of it, and then because that wasn't enough either, they'd wrap it in bacon. Really good, but whew, man, that talk about an artery clogger. So answer me those questions there, Brian, and we'll go for there with your hot dog discussion. Um, yeah. And there it is. That's the whole purpose of this time. How silly, how serious do we want to be in this time of Easter, in this time of joy, in this time of celebration, in this time of hot dog discussion? Um, and that's and I think that's it. How can we move? How can we be fluid through that? Can we be serious? Have some humor? Have that process that moves through. And I think that's so important for us to see and to recognize and to uh, appreciate and to move forward. What does it mean for us to live in community that's digital? So many I hear that, well, it's not the same, and, I can't wait to get back to normal. And, there are a lot of things that I can't wait for us to switch back to, but I've also talked to a lot of people who, um, some of our members who weren't able to get to worship on a regular basis, and some of them who this past year have had it so that they necessarily can't get back in the building, now have an opportunity to worship with us, to engage with us in a new way and an exciting way, and to be connected. And I think that's pretty amazing, that we have this ability, that we have people from out of state who participate in worship, who participate in these discussions. Brian says, I'll message you to follow up. And yes, we need to have more lighthearted moments. Absolutely. Um, Brian is a colleague of mine who, always focused on having, his joy was a way when he could, slide wrestling, uh, professional wrestling, WWE, those kinds of things into his sermons. And I'm curious, Brian, how often you still do that, or I know he's a big Phillies fan, so sports in metaphors and things like that. I haven't caught up on your sermons lately to see how you bring those and weave those into it, but I think that's it. How do we use lightheartedness? How do we offer that connectivity, that connection, that engagement, um, with serious topics and with fun topics, and sort of weave them all together, and to recognize what is going on in our world, and continue to uplift and to see where God is calling us in the midst of all of this. I mean, it's so important for us to engage with one another, to uplift with one another, and to see, what does it mean to live in this world, in this nation of differences, of our own abilities, of our own recognition of the difference of people. And I think that's, just so cool, is to see the difference of people, and recognize that in the midst of that difference, we are still united in various ways, and sometimes in ways that, we don't expect, we don't realize, and sometimes in ways that we don't want to admit, or we don't try to recognize, because um, we would rather see the differences as ways to separate rather than ways to join together. Um, and I think a lot of that is fear. A lot of that is, you know, we base stuff in what we've heard or in um, knee-jerk reactions or the way our mind just automatically makes a snap decision rather than us stepping back and really taking time or a willingness to get to know someone and to engage with that person rather than broad stereotypes or understanding that we believe are the way this person is or the way that person is. Um, and yet, yeah, how do we find the lightheartedness? How do we find that ability to be serious and silly? Another colleague of mine, John Soraka, he's got this little guy, his son, that he has always had pictures of and always had videos of, and just as watch him as we see him grow. And it's so great because they live in Staten Island, and so we were colleagues in upstate New York before we both took New Calls. And so to just see this little guy grow, and the way John speaks for him, and some of the comments that John makes is just hysterical, because it's true. It is full John, corny as he is, and I'm deeply grateful for for his friendship. And also Brian, who I knew from seminary, and my other colleague Lee, who's near and dear to me from upstate New York, who just has a gift of connecting with people in different ways. And I think that's so vital for our world today, that we need to recognize this importance of being able to connect with people differently and uplift with people and to be strengthened by all of that, and to find ways to move forward in the midst of that, to plan for the future now more than ever. And I think it's always that challenge of well, it's really hard to plan because we don't know what's coming or what's this. You're right, we don't, and it is hard to plan. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't plan. That doesn't mean we can't have loose plans or plans that can be modified, plans that can be fluid. And I think that's important too, is that what does it mean for us to plan for our future, to plan with hope, to plan with trust, and to work to make that plan known and to seek that plan out and engage with that plan over and over again, to really focus on that plan. I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of study on congregations who have simple mission statements and simple progressions for their members and for their congregation, that everybody knows that it's, this is what we're about, this is our purpose, and we want you to be a part of it. Here's why, and here's how we want to help you grow. And our goal and our expectation is for as you move through that you're going to grow, and then you're going to work with us to continue to grow, not just for yourself but for others. And I think that's so powerful, and I think that's so important for the church, for people, is to reform this understanding of what it means to be church. What does it mean to be the body of Christ living in a world today that has dramatically changed from a year ago, from 18 months ago, from 10 years ago, and how do we re-engage with one another? How do we find ways to be lighthearted, to be silly, to be serious, to be focused on what God is calling us to do in this world in new ways, with a solid foundation to grow from and to be supported by. And I think that's so important for us as we move through these months ahead, as we start to reform again. Our church has gone back to some on-site worship, but we are doing it hybrid. We don't, we're doing both. You know, you can come and worship with us on site, or you continue and worship with us online, and you get the same service. And it's really amazing, I think, that we have the technology to be able to do that, that we can offer that. And my hope is that those who are online still feel deeply connected, and that we are able to keep that connection and grow that connection, whether it's their first time with us online, or whether they were a member at the physical building that have gone online, and find ways to do this. Kim writes, stubbornness. Opposite sides don't want to change their mind, and it's best to not get into the differences sometimes. Sides are stubborn, to just let opposite thoughts be okay. Humor and positive Christian activities like helping others should be the way we connect. I love that our church is a place to be, hopefully, Switzerland neutral. And I think, you know, churches are a place to have discussion, a place to grow, a place to stand firm in some things that are biblically bound, but also a place to reach and to engage people and to challenge people sometimes, because if we read the Bible, if we read those ways where God impacts people, God doesn't impact people in their comfort. God impacts people in challenges and in new ways. Thank you. You know, Kim said Easter Sunday was great. I know, Kim, you and your husband were there on site with us. It was great to have that time. And she says, I think we've grown in member strength because many need it online. We have. I've heard from a lot of people who I think, you know, over a year ago would not have said that, you know, they wanted to do online. It's not real. And yet, you know, I think some of those same people now who have experienced it, who would struggle, you know, coming back in physical proximity, and who've said, yeah, you know, this is the way we feel, we want to continue for now. And I think that's really powerful to hear and to share. And I think that's it. How do we grow deeper in our faith, deeper rooted, but also spread that, you know, the notion of course, I can't think of the tree right now. I should know it because it was, you know, in various places in Florida. But they have these trees that, you know, as they grow out, the roots continue to spread, but then trunks come up from the roots. And, you know, there's a bunch of different plants that do that. I know some sorts of bamboo do that, and it's actually, you know, illegal to plant that type here in Pennsylvania. But this notion of, you know, those roots that run deep, but also that roots that run wide. Yes, Kim, aspen is one of those, but that's not the one I'm thinking of from Florida. Yeah, I'll have to figure it out. Okay. Banyan trees, that's what it is. Because my wife and I have a picture of it from when I was on my internship down there at our first year of marriage. So I think, you know, but aspens are one of those too. They grow out and they grow up and they continue to spread. And I think it's important for us to be able to do that too, to have that firm foundation, to be able to grow out, to be able to support one another, to be able to be connected in that way, and to be engaged with one another in new ways and in challenging ways, yet at the same time to recognize that in our difference, we are able to be connected, that it's that difference that makes us stronger. It's that difference that challenges us to have conversation and to, you know, to be engaged with one another, and this notion of, you know, whether it's neutral or whether it's a place that people feel comfortable that they can express their beliefs and know that they are cared for. And I think that's it. It's not about hiding. It's not about sheltering ourselves from the world around us, but it's about being able to engage in difficult conversations, and to be able to, that, you know, even though we may disagree, that we are able to come to God's table and to be able to be fed and nourished and to, you know, to live in community with one another. And I think that's so vital. One of the things that sort of strikes me is that, as we move through this Easter season, we're going to hear about Peter, about, Peter said he would never, leave Jesus. He denies Jesus 3 times before his death. And yet, when he comes back, when Jesus is raised, Peter is there with the other 10 disciples. He isn't cast out by everybody. He's not cast out by Jesus. They all struggle in different ways. Some, we hear the story of some believed, but some doubted. We hear of Thomas. And I think there's, varying levels of all of that. And how then do we engage with one another? Do we uplift one another? Do we support one another? Do we learn from one another? And do we grow together as members of the body of Christ in various ways? So, yeah, there's all of that. Thank you all so much. I saw Tom Curry has been on and Mel Smith. Thank you all. Yeah, Peter's a unique guy, and I'll be curious to see where we hear from him this Easter season and moving forward. And it might be curious to do a focus, maybe a Lenten devotion, just on Peter and what does that mean as we go through Lent. But that might be for next year. Thank you all so much for taking some time spending it with me. Please feel free, if you watch this later, to comment and share with one another. Again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave those as well. As I did say, we are offering hybrid worship now. We are requiring that people sign up to participate on site, so please do that. Something just went out on Facebook earlier today, and it's going out in an email. If you don't get our emails and would like to, you can reach out to our church office and get that set up. So I pray that all of you have a blessed day, and wherever it is, you see God in your midst today. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.